Okay, let's move on to the game itself. So, opens up, Rams favored by 1. What's interesting about that is
1.5 even.
Yeah, the power number really for most of the Vegas casinos suggested that should be Rams by closer to 3. They were not willing to do that, so they opened it up at 1.5, 1, and it immediately people just hammered the Patriots. They've continued to hammer the Patriots. It's now Patriots 2.5. I've seen minus 120 in some spots, which would obviously insinuate that it's going to 3. In other places, it's more even money, 2.5, probably stays 2.5, 3. Over under at about 56.5 right now. Well up from where it was last year between the Eagles and the Patriots. Obviously, no one knew what Nick Foles was capable of. I think that probably explains why.
48 was a high over-under for last year. 56.5 is high for this year, but lower than like 60 that New England got a couple years ago.
Yep. So it is interesting in that respect. So let's rewind a little bit to last year's Super Bowl. The things that we said about that game, the first of which was, well, the over is the one pick that we have on this game. That ended up being Patriots, right, minus 4.5, minus 5. We did not have a pick on the spread there. Obviously ended up being fortuitous. The over was the pick that we really liked. So looking at the total here, 56.5 is high. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the currently 56.5 is currently getting over money, but it opened at 59, 58.5, 58. By the time Greenline posted its pick last week, it was 58, so it's moved all the way down. So clearly there was an appetite for the under early, which is probably not public money. It's probably people who bet all the time money because the public likes betting overs. 56 is a key number, right? So 28 and 28. So I would be hesitant.
Game can't end in a tie, Eric.
Yeah, that's true. But I would hesitate to bet the over until I got a number that was 56, 55 maybe. But our number does our PFF Greenline number does shade the over here at 56.5.
Yeah, there's no way I'm taking the under indoors with Tom Brady and the Rams offense, Jared Goff and Sean McVay. I think the over seems palatable even at that high number.
But so here's a question though. What if the Rams have played these under games in the playoffs so far, right? Mm-hmm. And how has that been the case? And they played under games for like the second half of the year too. So how has that been the case? Whether it's efficient or not, they commit to the running game. They take a ton of time off the clock. It's not necessarily like the efficiency of the offense. It's the pace. And I do think the Rams are a team that pace-wise are not particularly fast.
True.
New England wanted to play an under game against Kansas City, and it had all the makings of it by all those long drives and everything. And so the question you have to ask yourself is if this Super Bowl comes out and looks like the AFC title game, do the Rams have the firepower that the Chiefs do to come back and make it into a game, make it into an over game? Because I think if this game is square, like straight up, score for score, punt for punt, I do think it ends up being lower scoring than people think, despite the efficiencies of these offenses.
I'm going to go ahead and bet on Bill Belichick being able to stifle Jared Goff for a couple of series. So I don't, or whatever he tries doesn't work. It never feels like it's going to come out square. There's always going to be some sort of inefficiency there. The thing with the Super Bowl is there's so many nerves involved. There's going to be a mistake. There's going to be a big play. They're always going to be players playing a little bit harder than they have in the past. I just think points are going to be scored indoors between these two offenses and these two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, look, you can commit to the running game all you want in the press conference and with fat, thick, that's what she said, C.J. Anderson. But when it comes down to it, you have to win this game. You're not going to sit there and run the ball with two subpar running backs if you're the Rams. There's just no way that can be your – if you go into this game, if Sean McVay is actually going into this game thinking we're going to win this game because we're going to run the ball, they've already lost. And just give the trophy to Tom Brady because you're not going to win the game unless you throw the ball well, period. Here was the other thing that we talked about last year, that I think is very apt for this game. Nick Foles was tremendous in the NFC title game last year. And going into the Super Bowl, I think you actually said, look, if he repeats it, he'll be Super Bowl MVP, and he was.
Yeah.
To a degree, there's some of that with Goff, because Goff...
How many degrees? 90, like it is in here?
Goff was really good in that Saints game on plays where he traditionally has not been good, on plays where he traditionally it's unstable, plays under pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could make sort of the same argument. If Goff plays that well, he could be Super Bowl MVP, but there isn't a preponderance of evidence to suggest that, and there is a preponderance of evidence to suggest that Tom Brady is playing at a much higher level than Jared Goff has, especially in the playoffs. Tom has been pinpoint perfect. Over 80% of his throws, either perfect ball location or on the receiver's frame. There is no one even close to him in the rest of the playoffs. He hasn't been touched under pressure less than 20% of the time, lowest we've ever seen for a quarterback in the playoffs since 2006. So what Tom has done is figured out how to get himself to this point and be in top shape. Remember last year he had that huge injury to his thumb. I'm just saying this year I think he's better. I think he's better prepared to win this game than he was.
Well, it seemed inevitable too, because in the previous Super Bowl they were facing an Atlanta team that was hotter than any team that we had seen in forever. The Eagles team seemed like plucky, right? They beat the Falcons barely. They beat the Vikings, but no, we're not going to get 2 straight great games out of Nick Foles,
right.
That kind of thing. What I think is important here, and again, I'm more in favor of the Rams at +3 if you can get it, but if you're looking at the Patriots always like to take away the thing that the other team does best. The Eagles, it was more hidden, right? Like the Eagles, there wasn't anything that was out loud that they did better than other teams. They went. You can't prevent a team from going for it on 4th down. Like they have the free will to do that. All that kind of stuff. The Rams are very out loud in what they're good at. They play 11 personnel a lot. The Patriots are one of the best teams you saw in defensing 11 personnel. The Rams are far better than the Patriots are, and one of the best in the league at our opponent-adjusted pass rush grades. Well, Patriots know that, right? And the Chiefs were also high in that, and they mitigated that in the AFC title game. They did it in the AFC divisional round on the road as well. The Rams, they have 2 really good weapons offensively in Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. Patriots took away. There was the only time all season that Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were under 100 yards was the AFC title game. I don't think the Rams have that complementary piece that the Chiefs had in Sammy Watkins. So, I think that there's going to be less sneaking up on the Patriots in this game because the Eagles did with Foles.
Okay, so you are firmly on Rams +3.
No, not firmly.
Not firmly.
I mean, so here's my calculus. We all season, we thought that there was value on the Pats preseason, even though it was like +550, +600. We had value on them early in the year when they were struggling. We had value on the middle of the season when they were just doing okay. There was value on the Pats at the beginning of the playoffs at +600, +650. If you have Pats futures, the Rams +3 is I think a statistically supported bet. To me,
okay.
I don't know necessarily if it was the only thing I was betting on.
Thank you for speaking to the 7 other people like you who have
7.
I'm just saying, divorce your own financial interest from this for a second. We're going to pick the game, agnostic to the other things that are going on. You want Rams +3.
Yeah, and I think the aforementioned kicker issues with Gostowski makes a game landing on 1 or 2 more likely than normal.
Great. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay. The Rams, if this were week 11, there would be plenty of value on the Rams. The Rams are set up, they are built to win games where there's a week in between. What they do is not overly crazy. They don't scheme things differently per opponent that much, which is the opposite of the Patriots. The Patriots are so good at playing in preparation for the exact opponent that they are facing. And to me, this makes the big difference here. The Patriots have a much better defense than they did last season. I think they're more prepared to actually take away what the other team does. And watching that game last night, so many things went wrong for the Patriots in that game. They had a perfectly designed trick play that went off Tom Brady's hands. They had Brandon Cooks pooping himself multiple times on plays where he should not have done so, particularly the end around.
Like one play?
Two. And they were huge plays.
Yeah.
The end around, he just for no reason tries to hurdle a guy when he could have just beat him to the sideline. Belichick compounds that mistake by not going for it there. They miss a field goal. Belichick has to learn from that. There is no way that after losing to a guy that had balls, he can go in and all of a sudden forget his after what he did in that game. Does not make that mistake twice. McVay, as much as I love him, has shown a propensity to make some questionable decisions on fourth down. He did so in a win last week. We'll see if he learns from that. But I think Belichick undoubtedly does. And when you watch that game, you just see all these things that the Patriots do. They celebrate stopping the Eagles on 3rd and 1. Every time I watch that play, I want to pull my hair out because I remember watching that game. We had the Patriots. This is the fourth quarter. There's about 4:37 left. It's 3rd and 1. They make a big stop. 4th and 1. They're going to punt it away. And I'm saying, no, they're not. What do you mean they're going to punt it away? They have a chance to win the Super Bowl. They're going to go for it. Of course, they go for it. The Patriots are going to learn from that mistake. And they also have the huge advantage of having been here and done this before, whereas really no one on the Rams does. It's a kind of a new experience for them. So I think all those things point to the Patriots being a much better team than they would be if this were a Week 11 game. To me, they have learned from their mistakes. They are primed for this situation. I do think that there will be many more Patriots fans there. I know. So I think Ravel tweeted out that actually the percentage of tickets purchased from California to Massachusetts were the same. What I would say from that is there are a lot of Pats fans in California that are wealthy that are going to be traveling out there. This is potentially Gronkowski's last hurrah. Brady is so old. All these things play into it. I think Pats -2.5 is actually a steal here. I'm going to be rooting for the Rams, but if I had to bet on this game, I would take the Patriots.
So this is our second steak
dinner here.
Is 2.5 the number?
Let's go. 2.5 is where it's at now. Let's go 2.5. Okay.
So there's two steak dinners on the line here.
Yeah, huge, massive. Anything else that you think is pertinent for these two teams? I think we can both agree that Aaron Donald, as great of a player as he is,
I think that the Patriots are going to neutralize him. I don't think that it ends up being something where he's a big factor, and most of it is because of it's exactly what Belichick does. It takes away the best player on the other team.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. It would be great to see a guy that has flown under the radar finally having coming out party this season in the eyes of so many actually have a great game.
And I don't know if this gets to props or not, but like the first half, over under 27.5, New England -0.5. To me, I think if we're going to print up a pick, it's going to be on one of those two.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because that's not the cutting that thing. Usually they cut the spread in half, right, and make it and in some cases, but then they have to make a lean towards a football number, and so obviously 2.5, you cut it down to 1, right? But actually they're shading back towards Los Angeles in the first half, thinking that this will be a close game early. Over under, and where I'm seeing it, 27.5 is even money to bet the over. Multiply that by 2, that's 55. So again, shading towards the under. If you have any inclination towards New England or the over, the first half might be where you want to go.
So I'm usually a first half under guy. To me, that's like...
No, it's normally where the normal bettors bet.
And seeing Jared Goff come out and have to face, the Patriots do so many things, right? They are the only team to play man more than 50% this season. They've run more than double the number of cover zero snaps. I can just see them coming out, going cover zero, showing cover zero, dropping out, showing cover zero again, bringing heavy pressure from one side. I could see Jared Goff just being really confused. As much as I think Jared Goff is actually going to rise to the occasion later in the game, to me, the opening couple could be tough for him. But I'm with you there. I'll let you talk me into that.
And
'cause I
then
love points.
both team totals are 13.5, but juice towards the over. Minus 140 in the case of New England, minus 125 in case of the Rams. Those are things that I think if you think, oh my gosh, the spread's too beat up, it was too many, it's settled on a good number. Those are places I think to look if you want some action and you're not enticed by either number for the full game.